Weeds taking over your garden beds? Bare spots making your yard look patchy and unfinished? I'm Sam from Seniors Gardening Advice, and I'm about to share 10 incredible plants that will solve both problems at once. These ground covers naturally push out weeds, spread across empty areas, and some even give you food to harvest. No chemicals needed, no constant weeding required. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our practical gardening tips. And if you find this helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with your fellow gardeners. All right, let's get into these 10 fantastic ground covers.
01. Creeping Thyme. The first plant on our list is Creeping Thyme, and this one has been a real winner in my garden beds. Creeping Thyme is an evergreen option, which means it keeps its foliage year-round and gives you color even during colder months. One of the best features of this plant is its ability to handle light foot traffic. You can walk on it occasionally without damaging it, making it perfect for pathways or areas between stepping stones. Now, this plant really loves sunshine. If you place it in a spot where taller plants cast shade over it, you'll likely see some portions die back. The plant grows outward from its center point, spreading horizontally to create a mat-like coverage. Over the years, the central part tends to become woody and less vibrant, but the outer edges keep pushing forward and filling in gaps. Season after season, Creeping Thyme proves itself as a reliable option. Once it establishes itself, it forms a beautiful, low-growing blanket that smells wonderful when you brush against it. The tiny leaves create a dense surface that blocks sunlight from reaching weed seeds, which means fewer weeds for you to pull. The flowers attract beneficial insects like bees and butterflies, adding even more value to your garden ecosystem. The overall height stays quite low, usually just a few inches tall, making it an excellent choice for areas where you want coverage without blocking the view of other plants. Maintenance is minimal once it gets going. You might want to trim back the woody center every few years to encourage fresh growth, but otherwise, Creeping Thyme pretty much takes care of itself. It handles dry conditions reasonably well once the roots are established, though it appreciates occasional watering during extended dry spells.
Our second option is Elfin Thyme, which shares many qualities with its cousin, Creeping Thyme, but with some notable differences. Elfin Thyme grows at a slower pace compared to Creeping Thyme. While this might sound like a disadvantage, it actually makes this variety even more manageable and predictable in your garden design. The growth stays much tighter to the ground surface, creating an even lower profile than Creeping Thyme. The foliage consists of tiny leaves that are noticeably smaller than those of Creeping Thyme. The branches don't extend as far outward, which results in a more compact, dense appearance. This tight growth pattern makes Elfin Thyme perfect for situations where you need a really low, neat ground cover that won't get too tall or spread too aggressively. Because it grows slower and stays lower, Elfin Thyme works wonderfully between pavers, in rock gardens, or along the edges of raised beds where you want a refined, tidy look. The dense mat it creates is still effective at blocking weeds, even though the plant itself is more petite. Like Creeping Thyme, Elfin Thyme prefers sunny locations and well-drained soil. It can tolerate some light foot traffic, though perhaps a bit less than its larger relative. The flowers are smaller, but still attractive to pollinators, and they add a nice visual interest during the blooming season. If you're looking for something with all the benefits of Creeping Thyme, but in a more miniature package, Elfin Thyme might be exactly what your garden needs. It's particularly useful for smaller spaces or more formal garden designs, where you want precise control over plant size.
03. Irish Moss. Coming in at number 3, we have Irish Moss, which brings a completely different texture to your ground cover options. Irish Moss excels as an edging plant, creating soft, lush borders along pathways, garden beds, or around larger plants. It can tolerate occasional foot traffic, though it's not as tough as the Thymes in this regard. The plant forms a dense, moss-like carpet that feels soft and looks incredibly green and healthy when conditions are right. This plant prefers soil that stays consistently moist. Drought conditions are not its friend, and extended dry periods will stress it out and may cause dieback. If you have areas in your garden that naturally stay a bit damper, Irish moss will thrive there beautifully. One challenge with Irish moss is that weeding within it can be a bit tricky. The dense, low growth makes it difficult to distinguish small weeds from the Irish moss itself, especially when you're trying to pull them without disturbing the ground cover. However, once it establishes a thick mat, it does help prevent new weeds from getting started. Here's a great feature. Irish moss self-seeds. This means it will gradually expand its territory on its own, filling in nearby spaces without you having to do anything. Over time, it will colonize areas adjacent to where you originally planted it, creating a broader and broader carpet of soft green coverage. The overall appearance is delicate and refined, making it an excellent choice for more ornamental garden areas. It stays very low to the ground, typically just an inch or two in height, and the fine texture contrasts nicely with larger-leaved plants nearby. Remember to keep the soil moist, especially during establishment, and Irish moss will reward you with a beautiful, lush ground cover that adds a soft, peaceful feeling to your garden spaces.
04. Strawberries. Number 4 might surprise some of you. It's strawberries. Yes, the same fruit you love eating can also work as a functional ground cover. Strawberries spread quickly through runners, which are horizontal stems that reach out and create new plants wherever they touch the soil. This spreading habit makes them excellent for filling in various spaces throughout your garden. They can grow under shrubs, beneath trees, along pathways, or in any gap that needs covering. Beyond their practical use as ground covers, strawberries offer something most other options don't: edible fruit. Depending on the variety you choose, you can harvest delicious berries throughout the growing season. This dual purpose makes them incredibly valuable, especially in edible landscapes or food gardens. There are also ornamental strawberry varieties available that produce pretty pink flowers instead of the usual white ones. These varieties focus more on beauty than fruit production, but they still spread effectively and create attractive coverage. The leaves stay fairly dense and create good coverage to block weeds from establishing. The plants remain relatively low, though not as low as some of the other ground covers we've discussed. The foliage also provides an attractive backdrop for the flowers and fruits. Now, strawberries do require a bit more maintenance compared to some other ground cover plants. You'll want to remove old, damaged leaves periodically, thin out runners if they become too dense, and provide adequate water and occasional fertilizer for good fruit production. But if you're willing to put in that extra effort, you get the reward of fresh strawberries along with weed suppression. Strawberries work in both sun and partial shade, though they produce more fruit with adequate sunlight. They prefer reasonably fertile, well-drained soil with consistent moisture. For gardeners who want their landscape to be both beautiful and productive, strawberries offer an excellent ground cover solution that serves multiple purposes at once.
Number 5. Sedum, or Stonecrop. At number 5, we have Sedum, commonly called Stonecrop, and this is truly one of the most versatile ground covers you can grow. Sedum varieties are incredibly adaptable. They thrive in full sun or partial shade. They handle dry soil and rocky conditions with ease, but they also tolerate reasonably moist soil. You can plant them in cracks between stones, along edges, in containers, or across open garden areas. They'll succeed in all these situations. This adaptability makes sedum perfect for problem areas in your garden where other plants struggle. Got a dry, rocky slope? Sedum will grow there. Have a section with thin soil over bedrock? Sedum can handle it. Need something for the edges of your driveway where salt spray happens in winter? Many sedum varieties tolerate that too. The plants form low mats of succulent foliage that comes in various colors: green, blue-green, red, bronze, or even variegated. The leaves are thick and fleshy, storing water for dry periods. This characteristic makes them extremely drought-tolerant once established. Sedum is excellent for edging along pathways, driveways, or garden beds. It's particularly effective at choking out weeds that try to grow in cracks or crevices. The dense growth prevents weed seeds from germinating, and the spreading habit fills in gaps quickly. One thing to note, sedum isn't ideal for high-traffic areas. While it can recover from occasional stepping, frequent foot traffic will damage it. Keep it in areas where people won't be walking regularly. Many sedum varieties produce flowers that attract bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects. The blooms add color and interest while supporting your garden's ecosystem. Maintenance is minimal. Sedum rarely needs watering once established, doesn't require fertilizer, and has few pest or disease problems. You might occasionally want to divide large clumps or trim back sections that have spread beyond where you want them, but otherwise, sedum pretty much takes care of itself. For low-maintenance, highly adaptable, attractive ground coverage, sedum is hard to beat.
06. Sweet Woodruff. Next up at number 6 is Sweet Woodruff, a shade-loving ground cover that fills spaces beautifully. Sweet Woodruff grows well in both sun and shade, though it tends to prefer shadier locations, especially in warmer climates. The plant produces whorls of bright green leaves that create a lush, layered appearance. In spring, it covers itself with small white flowers that add a delicate beauty to shaded garden areas. This plant spreads through underground stems called rhizomes. These stems travel beneath the soil surface and send up new shoots, allowing sweet woodruff to colonize areas relatively quickly. This spreading habit makes it excellent for filling in under trees, along woodland paths, or in any shady spot that needs coverage. Sweet woodruff prefers soil that stays reasonably moist. It won't tolerate constantly wet conditions, but it appreciates consistent moisture and will struggle in very dry locations. Here's a bonus. Sweet woodruff is deer-resistant. If you garden in an area with deer pressure, this plant will continue thriving while deer ignore it in favor of tastier options. The foliage also has a pleasant fragrance, especially when dried, which has made it popular historically for sachets and potpourri. The plant is considered herbal and has been used traditionally in various ways, including flavoring beverages and as a medicinal herb. Now, here's an important consideration. Sweet woodruff can be invasive if left unchecked. Its spreading nature, while useful for coverage, means it can move into areas where you don't want it. You'll need to monitor its spread and pull it out or cut it back if it starts encroaching on spaces meant for other plants. If you have a large shaded area that needs filling and you're willing to manage its spread, sweet woodruff offers beautiful coverage with fragrant foliage and pretty spring flowers. Just keep an eye on it to prevent it from taking over more than you intend.
07. Lingonberries. Number 7 brings us to lingonberries, an edible ground cover that offers both beauty and function. Lingonberries are low-growing evergreen shrubs that spread gradually through underground rhizomes. They maintain their foliage throughout the year, providing consistent color and coverage even during winter months. These plants grow slowly and steadily, which makes them manageable and predictable in your garden design. They won't suddenly take over areas aggressively, but they will gradually expand to fill the space you give them. Lingonberries do particularly well under taller plants. If you grow blueberries, for example, planting lingonberries underneath creates excellent layered coverage, while both plants benefit from similar soil conditions. They appreciate acidic soil with good moisture retention. The plants produce small white or pink bell-shaped flowers in spring, followed by bright red berries in late summer or fall. These berries are edible and quite nutritious, with a tart flavor that works wonderfully in sauces, jams, and baked goods. In Scandinavian countries, lingonberries are a traditional and beloved food. The evergreen foliage is attractive year-round, with small, glossy leaves that sometimes take on bronze or burgundy tones in cold weather. This color change adds visual interest during the dormant season.
Because lingonberries stay low and spread gradually, they create excellent weed suppression once established. The dense foliage blocks sunlight from reaching the soil surface, preventing weed seeds from germinating. Maintenance is minimal. Keep the soil consistently moist, especially during berry production, and provide acidic conditions, similar to what blueberries need. Otherwise, lingonberries are quite self-sufficient. For gardeners interested in edible landscaping, lingonberries offer an excellent combination of attractive evergreen foliage, beautiful flowers, nutritious fruit, and effective ground coverage.
8. Kinnikinnick, Bearberry. At number 8, we have Kinnikinnick, also known as Bearberry, which is a native plant in many northern regions. Kinnikinnick is evergreen, maintaining its foliage throughout all seasons. The leaves are small, glossy, and leathery, creating an attractive year-round appearance. In fall and winter, the foliage often takes on bronze or reddish tones that add color to the landscape. The plant produces white or pink urn-shaped flowers in spring, followed by bright red berries that persist into winter. These berries are edible, though they're somewhat mealy and not particularly flavorful. However, they're an important food source for wildlife, including bears, which is where the common name bearberry comes from. Here's the thing about Kinnikinnick. The branches grow long and spread outward, but they root slowly on their own. To establish a good ground cover, you may need to help the process along by manually layering the stems into the soil. This means taking longer branches, pinning them down, or covering sections with soil and allowing them time to develop roots at those points. Once the stems root properly, they form a hardy, attractive ground cover that's quite drought-tolerant and low maintenance. The plant grows naturally in sandy, rocky soils and can handle tough conditions once established. Kinnikinnick grows slowly, so patience is required. It won't fill in large areas quickly, but it will eventually create a beautiful evergreen carpet that requires minimal care. The plant stays quite low, typically just a few inches high, making it excellent for areas where you want coverage without height. This plant works well on slopes, in rock gardens, or in areas with poor soil where other plants struggle. It's also a good choice for erosion control because of its spreading rooting habit. For gardeners willing to put in some initial effort to help establishment, Kinnikinnick rewards you with a beautiful, evergreen, low-maintenance ground cover that supports local wildlife.
Number 9. Arctic Raspberries, sometimes called Lingonberry, which is a unique ground cover option. Arctic raspberries spread through underground rhizomes, similar to regular raspberries but with a much lower growth habit. While regular raspberries can grow several feet tall, Arctic raspberries stay very low to the ground, typically just a few inches in height. This extremely low growth makes them perfect for filling in narrow spaces, growing under taller plants, or creating a low carpet around shrubs and perennials. They won't compete visually or physically with taller plants, allowing you to layer your garden effectively. The plants produce small edible raspberries that are delicious and nutritious. The berries are similar in flavor to regular raspberries, but smaller in size. They're a real treat if you're walking through the garden and want a little snack. The foliage is attractive, with compound leaves similar to other raspberry varieties. In fall, the leaves may take on nice autumn colors before dying back for winter in colder climates. Arctic raspberries prefer cool conditions in moist, well-drained soil. They're particularly well-suited to northern gardens or cooler microclimates. In warmer regions, they may struggle unless given shade and consistent moisture. The spreading habit through rhizomes means they'll gradually colonize the area where you plant them. They won't spread as aggressively as some ground covers, but they will fill in over time and create good coverage that suppresses weeds. For gardeners in cooler climates who want an edible ground cover with unique characteristics, Arctic raspberries offer an excellent option that stays low, produces fruit, and fills in spaces effectively.
10. Leptinella, or brass buttons. Finally, at number 10, we have Leptinella,
commonly called brass buttons, which is our last fantastic ground cover option. Leptinella likes soil that stays moist, but can adapt to growing in both sun and shade. This adaptability makes it useful for various locations throughout your garden. The plant spreads through underground stems, sending up new shoots as it travels beneath the soil surface. This spreading habit allows it to colonize areas effectively and create dense coverage that prevents weeds from establishing. Here's a great propagation tip. You can start with just one plant in a container, let it fill in and create multiple crowns, then divide it into numerous new plants. This method allows you to create many plants from a single purchase, making Leptinella an economical choice for covering larger areas. The foliage is finely divided and fern-like, creating an interesting texture in the garden. The leaves form a dense mat that stays quite low to the ground. In summer, small yellow button-like flowers appear, which is where the common name brass buttons comes from. Leptinella can handle light foot traffic, making it suitable for pathways or areas between stepping stones. The foliage releases a pleasant scent when crushed or walked upon. Different Leptinella varieties offer different foliage colors, ranging from bright green to bronze or even purplish tones. This variation allows you to choose the color that best fits your garden design. The plant stays low, typically just an inch or two in height, creating a carpet-like effect. This low growth makes it excellent for spots where you want coverage without any vertical height. Maintenance is minimal once established. Keep the soil reasonably moist, especially during establishment, and Leptinella will spread and fill in on its own. You may occasionally need to trim back sections that have moved beyond their intended area, but otherwise it's quite self-sufficient. For covering tricky spots quickly, especially in areas with consistent moisture, Leptinella is a wonderful option that looks great, spreads effectively, and requires little maintenance.
There you have it. 10 incredible ground cover plants that will naturally suppress weeds, fill in those empty spaces, and give you some edible options along the way. Each one has its own special qualities and ideal growing conditions, so you can match the right plant to each area of your garden. I'm Sam from Seniors Gardening Advice, and I hope this guide helps you create a more beautiful, lower-maintenance garden with less time spent pulling weeds and more time enjoying the results. Which one are you most excited to try? Drop a comment below and let me know which ground cover you're planning to add to your garden. And if you have experience with any of these plants, share your tips with our gardening community. Don't forget to hit that like button if you found this helpful, share it with your gardening friends who might be fighting weeds, and subscribe to Seniors Gardening Advice for more practical gardening tips and advice. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our new videos. Thanks for watching, and happy gardening!